Facing growing likelihood of defeat in the U.S. presidential election, Donald Trump has again claimed without evidence that he won and that Democrats are trying to steal the election from him. In fact, Trump is losing ground as counting continues in 4 swing states that remain undecided. Let's take a closer look at those. The latest figures show Biden with 264 electoral college votes overall and President Trump with 214. Let's get down to the states. Georgia, where 16 electoral votes are up for grabs. There, it's an extremely tight race. Biden and Trump still neck and neck with 99% of votes counted. The latest count has shown the former vice president less than 2,000 votes behind the president and catching up. In Pennsylvania, that's the biggest yet to be decided, with 20 electoral votes. Donald Trump currently holding a narrow lead, but that gap is constantly narrowing, and the remaining mail-in ballots are expected to favor Joe Biden. Well, in Arizona, votes are still being counted too. The AP news agency, which is our main source of election data, those are the numbers you're seeing from them. AP has called that state for Biden, but most other media outlets have not called it yet. 11 college votes at stake there, which we're including in Biden's count, but again, that could change. And finally, Nevada, Joe Biden there currently with a slim lead in Nevada. The state carries the 6 votes he needs to win. There's still around 190,000 votes left to count there, with most in Democratic-favored areas. So, with voting still being tallied, Donald Trump's path to victory is looking increasingly difficult. States in red or blue on the map you're seeing have been called by AP for Trump or Biden. States in lighter blue or pink are leaning toward Biden or Trump, respectively, and any one state will give Biden the win. Trump, however, needs a combination of states to hang on. So, facing tough odds, Trump has once again addressed the nation, stating multiple falsehoods and saying he's being robbed of a second term. The Trump campaign has launched legal action claiming fraud, trying to stop the count in some states. State election officials say there is zero evidence of wrongdoing. To the contrary, they say counting is proceeding smoothly across the country. Well, here's some of what the president had to say.
Challenge Joe and every Democrat to clarify that they only want legal votes, because they talk about votes, and I think they should use the word legal votes. We want every legal vote counted, and I want every legal vote counted. We want openness and transparency, no secret count rooms, no mystery ballots, no illegal votes being cast after Election Day. You have Election Day, and the laws are very strong on that. You have an Election Day, and they don't want votes cast after Election Day, and they want the process to be an honest one. It's so important. We want an honest election, and we want an honest count, and we want honest people working back there, because it's a very important job. So that's the way this country is going to win. That's the way the United States will win. And we think we will win the election very easily. We think there's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so much evidence, so much proof, and it's going to end up perhaps at the highest court in the land. We'll see.
Our reporter, Amian Esif, is in Washington and following all of this. He joins us now. Amian, we just heard President Trump there talking about illegal votes and claiming that the election has been stolen from him. How are those comments going down in America?
Well, of course, Trump's supporters, those who voted for him, are looking at his chances of a second term slipping away in front of their eyes, and they're reinvigorated by his claims that he's going to be able to challenge the election results, that there's a reason for him to fight this in courts. But it's interesting to see the reaction from the rest of the country, from the majority who voted against Donald Trump, but also from the media. 3 major networks cut away from some of those comments he was making, reminding their audience that these were baseless claims that jeopardized the electoral process. So even Fox News, which is a major media network that is very favorable to Donald Trump very often, has repeated that there's no base for these claims that the election is being stolen from here. So a very divided reaction to these claims that he's making.
Now, I understand that election protests are being reported in a number of places in the U.S. And can you tell us more about what those demonstrations are about?
That's exactly right. They're about these comments that Trump has made. So a lot of his supporters have gone to places like in Arizona where they're counting ballots to protest that they need to continue to count the ballots, because there in Arizona, Trump is gaining an advantage from these votes that are just being counted now, so absentee ballots and things like that. Whereas in Michigan, where Biden was declared the winner, they have gone to polling places and demand that the count be called off. But on the other side, Biden supporters, or just people who are worried about Trump's comments about not accepting the results, are taking to the streets and demanding that every vote should be counted, that we do this election like we've done it every year, that we count all the ballots, absentee, mail-in, everything like that, until we have a final result and then determine a winner of the presidency.
Okay, so we've heard from President Trump. One thing he did say that is definitely true is that the office of president is very important. Another man wanting to become president, of course, Joe Biden. He's been speaking. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Democracy is sometimes messy. It sometimes requires a little patience as well. But that patience has been rewarded now for more than 240 years with a system of governance that's been the envy of the world. And we continue to feel, Senator and I, we continue to feel very good about where things stand. We have no doubt that when the count is finished, Senator Harris and I will be declared the winners. So I ask everyone to stay calm, all the people to stay calm. The process is working. The count is being completed, and we'll know very soon.
So Joe Biden there saying he's on track to win, sounding optimistic. When will we know who's actually won? What states should we be watching out for over the next few hours?
Well, Georgia is one that is promising to have its votes done very soon. About 99% of the votes have been counted there, and it's down to a margin of under 2,000 votes at this point. So very close, and that would be a state that either Biden could flip for the Democrats or Trump could secure for himself. So we're watching Georgia right now, and that's going to be coming in next. Pennsylvania has most of its ballots counted, but in the other states, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, the electoral officials are saying everybody has to be patient, that they're not going to announce any results until all the votes have been counted because the margins are so close. So those are the states that we're going to watch right now. Pennsylvania, of course, in Trump's favor, but as more votes are being counted, that could flip toward Biden, and that's one of the main reasons why Biden is optimistic, because if he wins Pennsylvania, he wins the presidency.
Very exciting indeed. DW's Amin Esif there in Washington. Thank you very much. Well, our Peter Roledal is also following this, of course, very closely. He's with me in the studio to take a closer look at some of those claims that President Trump has been making. Let's first listen in to more of what the president had to say.
I've been talking about mail-in voting for a long time. It's really destroyed our system. It's a corrupt system, and it makes people corrupt even if they aren't by nature, but they become corrupt. It's too easy. They want to find out how many the votes they need, and then they seem to be able to find them. They wait, and then they find them.
Donald Trump there casting doubt on the legitimacy of mail-in ballots, calling it a corrupt system, talking about secret count rooms. Extraordinary from a U.S. president. What are we to make of these claims?
You know, if I could be honest with you, Terry, I kind of wish I knew where a lot of this was coming from. I mean, I think there are no secret count rooms. Both parties have observers during the elections. The Trump campaign has said also in Pennsylvania, for instance, that they would like observers during the tabulation process. The state has agreed to that in theory, but warned that it might slow down the process. You know, these claims of mystery ballots, of illegal votes, officials and observers have both said that this election has been remarkably smooth despite taking place in the middle of a pandemic. Reports of irregularities have been absolutely minimal, and the mistakes that have come up have largely been corrected quite swiftly. You know, we're looking at an election that's seen the highest turnout in over a century. As I said, it's taken place in the middle of a pandemic, which has forced a lot of states to, come up with different ways to try to make this process a bit more smoother. For instance, relying more on, and also, first of all, obviously, to have people stay safe during this pandemic. So it is taking longer because we are looking at an immense backlog of mail-in votes. So there's nothing unusual about any of the things that we've been seeing these past days. I think what's probably truer is that we're looking at an incumbent president who currently has a very, very narrow path to victory, much more narrow than Joe Biden at this stage, it looks like, and who's essentially making up, trumped up allegations to maybe save face and to cast doubt on the integrity of a perfectly fair democratic process.
Well, this is what I'd like to talk about, the process, because President Trump, you can understand if he's afraid he's going to lose, he's getting a bit desperate, but the things he's saying cast doubt on the entire American electoral system. He's saying it's corrupt. Right. He's essentially accusing the American electoral process of being unfair and corrupt. What sort of message does that give to the American people and to the other people in the Republican Party? Can they sign off on that?
Well, we've seen some Republicans starting to distance themselves. The governor of Maryland, for instance, Larry Hogan, coming out yesterday saying that Trump needs to stop casting doubt on this. I mean, keep in mind, this is not just about Trump. We're looking at a lot of Republican states right now. We're looking at Senate races. We're looking at local races. Does that mean that all those election results are illegitimate as well? The Republicans have overperformed in Congress. Does that mean that we need recounts there as well, that those votes no longer matter? I don't think Trump would agree to that. So, I mean, where does this leave us? It leaves us in a process where, an immensely chaotic process. We're looking at absolutely essential that whoever comes out victorious of this process is considered a legitimate presidency. Trump is currently doing everything in his power to undermine that legitimacy. And keep in mind, he could still win. Does that make him an illegitimate president?
Remarkable.
Those are the questions.
Absolutely.
Looking ahead.
DW's Peter Lodell, thank you very much for your analysis, Peter.